Thanks for joining us for another one of our AI Fireside Chats. Today, I am joined by Tyson Hollas. Tyson and I worked together at a company 20 years ago. We've been great friends ever since. We regularly get together, and over the last 2-3+ years, ever since the ChatGPT moment, AI has been a big part of our conversations. Tyson has 20 years in manufacturing, distribution, supply chain, technology, and today he is putting all of these things together with the knowledge that he has and his incredible technical abilities to build really, really incredible things. Tyson is actually the first person that planted this thought that 5, 10, 15 years from now, what is going to happen to junior workers or junior developers specifically if AI is doing a lot of this junior level work? What's that going to mean for the senior level talent pipeline down the road? And that's just one of the topics of many that we unpack today. So with that, hope you enjoy another Fireside Chat. All right, welcome to another Fireside Chat. I am excited today. Tyson and I go back almost 20 years, and we meet at least every other month and talk about these kinds of things. And so excited to bring some of this conversation out to the world. So thanks for joining me today, bud.
No, thank you for having me. We've been talking about doing this for a while, and I'm excited to have a conversation with you and let everyone else listen into what we talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Let's start with this. What are the things that you're seeing and doing that you're most excited about? And what are you just really frustrated with?
You know, my excitement way outweighs my frustration. I think from a frustration standpoint, let's start there. The frustration standpoint I have is really from the other side of the coin, if you will, in the lack of tolerance from humans against AI. That's my frustrating point. And it's because these are toddlers running around with crayons in their noses, but they know everything in the world. That's what we have in this AI world. And so many users want the answer that they want. And it's like asking a toddler, answer this question for me. Why didn't that package get delivered at the door? Well, I saw a truck and the truck went that way, but it doesn't know anything more than that. It doesn't understand the intent and the judgment with it. So that's my frustration part. It's not in the tools themselves. I mean, we're still new in this. What's crazy is it's now been 2.5 years. No, 23, 24, 25. We're 3 years in this for general public, and we're getting new stuff every day. The frustration part is, we're still in the infancy of this, and we're wanting it to be better, which then leads to. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
So you're like the frustration that you're talking about and people's temperament, for lack of a better word. It's not about the fear. It's about people's expectations of what they should be getting and what they are getting or perceive that they're getting.
Yes. And then the dismissal. It's just not good. It's a very weird thing that I'm sensing and I'm feeling, but it also could be my lens on it as well, because I'm excited about everything it can do for us. But the temperament, I think there's a fear that people have of this taking their job away. And just like whenever something cannot live up to the expectations, well, it's not going to be good at anything. It's a dismissal so quick. And so that's what's frustrating to me, is that there is a lot that you can do with all the tools we have. And I guess, that's kind of going to go to the next part. The frustrating part is that there's no roadmap right now. There are all these tools and they all do so many great things, but then they have to be used in different ways. And it isn't just plug and play now. And the plug and play pieces that do get put together, there's still holes and exploits that come out with them. So that's the frustration part, is that we're still trying to learn everything and we don't know. So that leads to dismissal very quick, and the open-mindedness of that's where I'm frustrated with where it's at. But then on the excited part, man, I can do things in minutes that used to take me days. And the fact now that you can really put together a team of what you want to have done, you can set it up and then you can train it, if you will, on how you want things done. But I also think that's a pitfall that a lot of people are falling into now as well. I see too many people trying to create mini me's. And what I mean by that is they're closed and saying, this is exactly the way I want you to think about this. They micromanage, they prompt engineer.
So on that note, a couple things. One, I've switched from ChatGPT as my primary to Claude over the last few months. And one of the things that I've found with Claude is that when I ask it to ask me more clarifying questions, the questions that it's surfacing are really, really good questions. And I compare that to my experience with chat. And the point you made a minute ago, like they're releasing so fast that, maybe chat has improved in this. But I feel like with chat, it was asking me questions so that it could check the box to say, well, you told me to ask you questions, so I asked you a question. It's like that's not a valid one. But to your point about challenging your thinking, that's one of the beautiful things about these tools is it does open up a different perspective. And there have been things that it surfaced and I'm like, oh, I hadn't even considered that. So you're right. Just because this is exactly how you want it to be done, you need to be open-minded to say, maybe there is a better approach to this.
Yeah. And that's where I think, because it's still considered technology by a vast majority. And I look at it as workforce augmentation and not technology. Now, there's technology aspects of it, right? From the automation and the, hey, we're going to set this up and you're going to go run it for me, right? There's that part of it. And you're going to communicate with this system and talk to that system and bring me back information. But that's also, you can have a human do that too. It takes them way longer, but you can have a human do it. But where I'm really working to get from my mindset when I'm working with this is it's truly my team I'm leading. So I don't want to have to instruct it to ask me questions. I want to, and where I've really worked to do things on is, okay, here's my objective. Here's the constraints I see. Here's what good looks like to me. And here's what done looks like to me. Figure this out and bring to me any ideas that I might not have considered as being done or being good or being a constraint. And then I let it lift back.
Yeah. And are you putting that into each prompt, or have you written skills, or have you put in your overall instructions that that's how you want it to handle everything?
So it's really in the prompts I have. I have some skills that go along with that, but those are more analytical skills and analysis summarization skills of transcripts and looking at different pieces of information. Whenever I'm actually prompting or asking inside of it, I am truly acting like this person is more capable than I am, but I have better intent and judgment on what it's going to return. So I can tell you this, Scott, I would probably give you the same direction that I give ChatGPT. As a matter of fact, I try to think of communicating with that type of clarity, if you will. In other words, this is the ask to another person. That person then can be a million people, go out, get everything, and return it back to me in 2 minutes, if that long, right? So I don't really have this real workflowed out. I have, in other words, important points in a conversation that I want to have, but I don't treat it any differently than I would someone that I'm leading that I set to do with a task. Then I let them go, because it's that what you mentioned, what it brings back sometimes. I didn't even think about that. That makes total sense. And it's not that I didn't, it is that I didn't think about it, but I forgot that I needed to think about that part because, I'm thinking over here, I'm trying to reserve my cycles, my thoughts for intent, clarification, and judgment on what's being returned.
Yeah. Well, speaking of things that you had not considered, you and I had a conversation probably well over 2 years ago, when it was shortly after the ChatGPT moment, and you were the first person that brought to my attention this idea that over 5, 10, 15 years, if these AI tools are supplanting or drastically reducing the need for junior level workers, and I think we were talking specifically in the context of developers, but I think you could apply this to, plenty of other fields. Over time, there's going to be this gap where if we don't have junior people that are progressing and learning and growing these areas, we're going to get to a point where we don't have senior people, the architects that can make the next generation of things happen. And so, where do you think we're at on that situation? Do you think that there's a clearer path, or do you think that this is still a problem we're going to have to contend with down the road?
I believe everyone's fully aware. I know that. If you want to talk about the conversation, I mean, it's everyone knows this is a problem. I don't think we have a solution for it. And it kind of goes back to what I was stating previously about, you know, AI has speed with no direction. It has knowledge, but no judgment, right? And when you speak about the senior people, well, senior people have knowledge and they have judgment and they have intent. So the question becomes, if you don't spend your career working on something and earning that through time, right? And learning that through experience, how do you get that into you? And, I'm going to bring up something that I know as a parent around my parents, the parents that I hang out with, this whole thing of the new math, everyone hates new math. They don't, maybe that's too broad, but most people don't like new math. And it's because we learned it one way. Why can't it be learned the same way? I've always kind of walked a different direction. I think new math is imperative for us on the way we think, we calculate items. We do have a calculator now. So the way we learned math in the past, it's not needed anymore. We have the calculator. To do the more advanced things, the kids need to be able to think in that mindset that we didn't have to think on. So carry that from grade school into your initial years in your career. How are we going to push these high experiences that people need to have to get judgment and intent? If you ask me, if we can get that solved, we'll fill this gap. But until we understand how can we do that, because it's all through experience, and at least that's what we think. I'm
Yeah.
I'm not willing to go off that hill yet, but I still think we have a problem.
Yeah. Well, I loved your calculator example. And one of the things that comes to mind in that vein, yeah, we can give a kid a calculator, but if they don't understand the principles that go into the calculation, they're not going to be able to do anything with it. And, I think that's a little bit of what you're saying. Like, you still have to have people that understand what goes into, to your point earlier, what actually makes something good. It can't just be a prompt. Like, you've got to actually understand at a base level what that means. I'll give you a quick example. I am not a developer by any stretch. I can't write a lot of code to save my life. And I've done a little bit of vibe coding. I played with Replit and I built some really cool apps. If you ask me, like, what is actually going on here, I couldn't tell you. And that is not scalable. That is not something you can take to market. And the things that I've been working on are just internal, quick and dirty tools to help me speed stuff up. But to be able to take something to scale, you have to understand how it all works together. And much like just giving the kid the calculator, we can't just give people the AI tool and say, go to town. They've got to have a basis for what they're actually trying to create with it.
I agree with you, but look at where we're at now. We've got CEOs saying, I need you to use AI and I need you to find the 500 hours that I know it can save you so we can show that we're having success and saving time here. And, not just the production of an app or something to save time, but then you have this whole other side from an infrastructure and security in different areas, which AI does a great job supporting the professionals that know how to do it. But I purposely stayed away from OpenClaw because I was afraid on my ability to lock it down right. And I might have been gone through it. I didn't want to fight to go through it. I didn't want to expose myself to the risk of it. So I stayed away. So we're again, this is the exciting thing about this, but it's also the frustrating time about it too, because it's that we expect it to do everything right for us, but we don't take the time to understand what is it supposed to be doing for us.
Talking about the CEO that says, "Hey, I want everybody using AI." There's been all these reports about how, companies, big enterprises have invested, hundreds of billions of dollars at this point. And I forget if it was McKinsey or Boston Consulting Group. There was a report that they did, I don't know, 6 months, a year ago, that said 97% of these companies cannot report any positive ROI on these investments. Fast forward, I was listening to a podcast last week, and they were talking about top-down AI versus bottom-up AI, and where these lack of returns are coming seem to be that top-down AI, but where the gains are actually happening are the bottom-up AI. So in other words, here's this corporate thing, we've spun up 30 agents to do X, Y, and Z. My takeaway is that those are the kinds of things that have not really been working, but the individual users that are fine tuning these things, that built their own workflows, that's where the gains are actually coming from. I don't know. Do you have a thought on that?
So when you talk about ROI, right, you've got to put hard values to that. So is there cost cutting? And I'm talking like tangible cost cutting. Since we are automating processes, we're automating human time. So the only way to cut costs when you automate human time is to remove human time. So unless they're having layoffs as something from AI, you're not going to have that. Okay, so that's the first side of it. The second side is, are we moving our revenue up? So you've been in the integration game for a long time. You understand this stuff. It's very hard to articulate, this revenue dollar moved here due to this automation and this integration piece. There's always so much. There's 4 different factors inside of it. So I think we're back at the age-old problem of validating and justifying process improvement. But now we're doing it at such a scale. There's that top-down pressure from the shareholders saying, "Hey, we need you to do it and show that you're doing it." But then it's tough to just say, "Go do." Whereas on the flip side, you have these individual workers, these boots on the ground that are touching everything, and they are finding optimizations inside of their workday. But does it scale, and does it truly impact the top line? Because unless that person goes away or some other person goes away and they replace it with the automation, you can't do it. So I think we're in a weird spot here on validating, because I've been in manufacturing my whole career and supply chain, and unless you cut workers or you were able to improve your actual throughput, ROI is not there. It's a faux number. It's a facade.
Yeah. A minute ago, you mentioned your reluctance to dive into OpenClaw because of concerns about security, and that is, we don't need to rehash the whole story on that. But talking about security, have you followed this whole Anthropic mythos launch? And
no, I haven't been in it. I mean, there's so much going on, and this is here, recent. I've not been in it. From the little bit I've heard about it, and again, I'm sorry for cutting you off. I think part of the release was just it's pressure. Anthropic is wanting to go public here a little bit later. Everyone's releasing stuff, and they didn't want to be like, it's the same thing with the 4.7 that got released last week. Everyone is saying this 4.7 was more of a forced release and not a fully baked model that comes out. Now, I don't know. I mean, there's people that follow this way closer than I do. So, but no, go on with the mythos. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
You actually kind of went where I was curious to get your thoughts on. And when when information first started coming out on it, I was like, oh, geez, like this is really, really scary. But the more that I've listened to people and read up on it, there's a lot of people that are saying, maybe this is actually smoke and mirrors, and this is really about juicing the story and being able to say we've fully achieved AGI, so that when they do IPO, that they really get the pop that they're looking for.
Right. I mean, my question is, what is AGI going to give us, and what is it going to take away from us? And really, it's that second question that concerns me. Because again, and maybe it's my mindset, and I might have the wrong mindset. This is a bunch of workers. There's a workforce out there now, but they don't have the intent. They don't have the judgment. And maybe AGI gives that judgment and intent. If that's the case, that's scary to me.
Yeah. Well, it took me 20 plus years to actually watch the movie Idiocracy. And I finally watched it like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I was talking to somebody afterward, and they're like, it was the documentary that wasn't supposed to be a documentary. And to your point, if it really does take the judgment out of things, then yeah, we're headed toward Idiocracy.
Well, I mean, I think people today, they don't want the culpability as it is. I mean, you can get the whole philosophy of critical thinking, which I think it's imperative for you to do when you're working with AI and if you really want to push it, right? But most people don't want to have the blame on them for anything that gets put forth. And that's why, again, I go back to the frustration of, well, I gave something, I cut and pasted it. You get these long things out versus it being distilled down. I mean, I try to take the adage of, if I'm going to use AI, my team, to do something, if I publish it, it's mine, meaning I'm the one that read it. I'm the one that edited it at the end and said, okay, I'm sending this to you, Scott. Yes, I did use Anthropic or a combination of tools to build it, but I curated it. I synthesized it. And this is kind of what I'm standing behind as our recommendation to go forward. And not everyone, I'm not saying but there's so many people that do not want to do that. You know, my son's 19, getting into the corporate world, and he's doing good. And I quoted him something that my first roommate out of college quoted to me whenever I get frustrated. It just said, Tyson, just remember, half the people in the world are below average. So whenever you think about your prompts and everything like that, half of those responses are going to be below average of what comes back to you.
Yeah. That's a really interesting way to look at it. That's a really good way to look at it. And it almost seems like the model companies are going to have to build for the lowest common denominator.
That hasn't helped our public school system. I mean, the thing is, do they? Because I heard it the other day. I was listening to one of my big signals on this whole thing, in that the model companies are this akin to the Teslas, the General Electrics, and all that. They're making the electricity. What we do with the electricity is the next piece. These model companies basically gave an interface to where everyone could touch it, just so it's almost like marketing hype. Right. I would love to know some of the stats. They're probably out there, but of the whatever billion users that are signed up with Anthropic or OpenAI, how many of those hit it on a daily basis, a monthly basis? What's that usage look like from a direct interface in? But then segregate that from the API calls from other tools that hit those same systems. And to me, I think you start seeing the story of your builders and your visionaries that are saying, hey, I've got electricity over here. Let me build a business and a factory. And then those people are going to be building to the lowest common denominator inside of their niche. I would hope that Anthropic and OpenAI don't go that direction.
Yeah. I read a book a couple months ago called The AI Driven Leader, and one of his premises is stop using ChatGPT like Google. And I think for you certainly, and for me in the bulk of how I'm using these tools today, I've moved past the, hey, tell me about this, give me the history of XYZ or whatever. And I'm using it to actually produce some other kind of tangible output that I'm going to use in my business or my day to day. Do you think most people, when they think about these tools, they're still thinking about using it like Google? Or do you think that people have really kind of grasped the power of what it can do beyond just simple question and answer?
The folks I continue to work with now, they've moved more into prompt engineering and trying to deliver stuff. I still think that they're not quite there, and they don't understand the full breadth and depth of what's capable. And what I want to look into more, if I had time, and I probably should have time to do this and take on, how many people are leaders, just leaders in general, and understand delegation, understand assignments, understand, hey, go take care of this for me and come back, and then can let it go and not micromanage. How many people are managers? And we know that there are way more managers than there are leaders, because there's a process, they follow the process, they work it. And most people are going to look at these tools, they're going to ask the question, and they're going to go forward. Like, it was a year and a half ago, I think, I had to string some lights in my backyard, and I wanted to be mathematically right, and I didn't want to put the time in to do the math. I just measured it and put it into, I don't know if it's Claude or ChatGPT, one of the two, and just said, hey, here's what I want. This is what I have. Here's the measures I know you need. And this goes back to our juniors not knowing that intent and everything, but I knew what to give it. And it said, oh yeah, by the way, here, measure these points, put this on, tie it up, and then it drew it drew me a diagram. And I still think people are treating it being, OpenAI or Claude as Google. I actually love the deep research on Google, like for the search. Whenever I search anything, I'm intending to have the conversation. I don't even draw down through. And this is where answer engine optimization is coming to be a big conversation piece right now. And a segue here, as I'm thinking through this, the one thing that anyone listening to this podcast, and if you are typing over 5% of the characters that get entered in your computer, find a way to stop doing that. Just, I don't type anymore. In fact, I don't like whenever I have to be quiet because I can't talk into my phone or talk into the computer and have it dictated to do everything. So just kind of, if you want to go at the speed of AI, find out a way to talk, because unless you can type over 140 words per minute, you're not keeping up with everyone else that's talking to it. Sorry for the aside.
Well, I posted on LinkedIn last week about lazy prompting. I think you actually had commented on it. And for things that, one of the things I get stuck in is when I start typing, like, I want it to be perfect. I want it to be exact. I want it to be right. And one of the things I've started doing is I run into an issue where I talk too long and it seems like Claude cuts off when I use the voice mode. So I just get out my voice memos app on my iPhone. I talk, sometimes it's 60 seconds, sometimes it's 7 minutes. And I just take this raw dump and I paste the transcript in and say, go to town. And, with enough rambling, it gets enough context and it's able to do what I need it to do.
No, absolutely. And I remember using ChatGPT was the first one that enabled the voice thing. And I would go for my walks. I would just sit there and talk, and I'd get back to my desk and I'd have, here's 10 things you talk through, go get it. The thing on the iPhone is a good dictation. Whisperflow, the WISPR flow. It's what I use now, and it crosses all of my devices. It's on all of them. I can go into the command line. It'll push stuff into the command line for me, and it'll sit there and dictate. I mean, if it goes for 3 minutes, I go for 3 minutes. But I also find that the more you do that, first of all, like you said, you're not trying to figure out how to type it right, and because you're overthinking versus this conversation right here, right? And then for anyone that doesn't have Whisperflow or whatever, if you have access to Teams or to Zoom or whatever, get onto a meeting by yourself, hit transcribe, talk through your process that you have, and then go into Claude or OpenAI or Gemini, whatever your favorite tool is, and say, document this process for me. Let me see it. And that's my one takeaway from this. If anyone has not done that yet, pause, come back, listen to Scott later, listen to another podcast after you're done, but go do that and you will be blown away.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Well, as we kind of wrap it up here, what is something you have built or are building that you're most excited about?
So I've built a few applications. Since my background is manufacturing supply chain, I've had people reach out to me about building configurators. I've built a couple of configurators. I've provided leadership services into a deterministic AI to actually operate back office software all the way and then be auditable, traceable. That's great. I have a personal one to where whenever I'm walking or I'm somewhere and I need to have a note, I've got a workflow where I can send a link or I can send a YouTube video. It's transcribed, it's categorized, and I'll send whenever I send the video, I'll say, look, I want to look at this tonight or I want to look at it on a weekend. I got my 2 reviews, and then it'll put it in my list to go through there. It summarizes and gives me some hints, and I might say, hey, I want to look at this because of this is what caught my eye. And then just this past week, everyone's talking about these business brains for companies. And I've been working on one. And then last night I attended a presentation on one that's been delivered pretty much. And I got a couple of ideas out of that I'd not thought through. So right now I am looking to find a way to integrate all back office systems and combine them up with transcripts of meetings that are held between either leaders or at the teams level, and basically layer in what needs to be updated when into a full graph, if you will. So a full brain
Like
interconnected together.
A knowledge graph.
A knowledge graph of everything that happens. And then like some things like your work orders or your sales orders, what the status is, that gets updated once a day. But then the AI is going to be smart enough, or my agent will be smart enough to go, oh, this is my knowledge graph. But the ask is, where is that right now? I know what business system it is. I go query and I pull that back immediately on it. So that's one of the latest things that I've started architecting and working towards. And I'm really excited about that. I think that's going to be if anything, it's a framework that people can take. They might not take the thing I build, but the framework will be there.
Yeah. All right. Last question. You touched on a couple things there, but you, of all the people in my network, I think you are the furthest on the bleeding edge of this stuff. How are you, apart from your own experimentation, but like what podcasts, what websites, what news sites, like where are you getting your information?
So my go-to, and this is I spine off of this guy. His name is Nate B. Jones, and he has AI News and Strategy Daily. And he's on YouTube. He has 250,000 subscribers, and I'm looking at it right now. He gives a very good blend between strategy and high-level tactic. And then he has actually some workshops that you can do as well. To me, he's grounded. He knows stuff. I don't know his full background, but that's my primary signal, because you got to narrow down, right? And he might not be the best one, but for me, he gives me enough ideas to go chase. And then I might find some other folks that are talking about the same thing, but he's my signal. AI News and Strategy Daily, Nate B. Jones on YouTube.
Okay, cool. Well, I will check that out, and people listening or watching should do the same. So Tyson, I appreciate it. Always enjoy our conversations, and glad to share some of this thought leadership with others.
I appreciate you. And you know what? Maybe we come back in 6 months and talk again and see where we were wrong and people have solved stuff and new things. I would like to do that. I mean, it'd be kind of a cool to wrap around sometime.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, just talking about the speed with which things are changing, I think that Claude has prompted me to update my app about twice a day for the last 2 weeks. And so, I mean, it's just constantly changing.
It's crazy. It's a good time. It's fun times to be alive.
Indeed. All right, man. Well, appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott.